get on with it. We are going to talk now with Stacey Brown, Hamil Harris, and James Wright, who did a great job this week covering the remote Democratic convention, virtual Democratic convention mostly. And by the way, this is the first that we've witnessed anywhere, any time in the history of this country. So, Hamil, let me start with you. What stood out the most to you about this virtual convention?
Well, as one who has been blessed to cover many conventions over 20 years, I guess what stood out to me is the fact that it was not the real thing in terms of the floor, of the hats, and all the crazy things that go on within the floor. But what also on the good side, we got to see Kamala Harris, we got to learn more about her, and also, I guess, Joe Biden. He is still evolving. He's still getting his message together. So overall, I give it a B. I would like it to be more cohesive in terms of just the rawness of the convention, but they got the job done. They did have a unified message, and they're now ready to go out.
Stacey, you've covered many conventions, and you cover from a national standpoint. What stood out for you this week? Who were the highlights of the convention, and did you see anything that really think may not have been effective or a good play for the Democrats?
Well, what stood out for me is the obviously the speech by Kamala Harris accepting the nomination. That was historic. We've been chronicling the Black women's suffrage movement over the past year, and certainly Kamala Harris' nomination helps to culminate the story itself. But of course, Barack Obama really he was the main part of my story today, and that's because of the fact that for several reasons. One, he never in the 4 years have attacked Trump directly. This time he took the gloves off, and he really, I think he really articulated what most Americans, not just Black Americans, but most Americans are feeling and have felt in these 4 years under Donald Trump. And in fact, Obama never referred to him as President Trump. If you took notice, he said Donald Trump at least a couple times. And to the viewers, I'm sorry for the echo. I hear it myself.
Yeah.
But I thought the convention was well done. Hamil gave it a B. I think that based on the fact that the circumstances, I would tend to go A because I think that they really did with their message across. I think Joe Biden finally impressed in a way that his camp was really looking for, and a way that people really felt like they can embrace and get behind.
Wonderful. James, want to bring you on because, you looked at the local angle of this. This was the first time that delegates, and we voted for delegates to attend and represent the District of Columbia at the National Convention. They weren't unable to attend. So what was their agenda, and had they gone, what would they have done that they, or did they do in spite of the fact that they didn't go?
What they did was very unique, and other delegations throughout the country did the same thing. They held virtual watch parties. They had speakers virtually, and they talked about basically the Democratic Party and the party's values. You had speakers such as in these virtual watch parties, former Senator Bill Nelson. You had former Senator Carol Mosley Braun, and you even had Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, come by on Tuesday virtually to the DC Democrats to talk about what they're doing in Congress and what Congress needs to do in terms of what the Democratic agenda. And as you know, on yesterday, while Biden was giving his speech, they had a party, a drive-in theater party at RFK. So the DC Democrats were very active, but one thing is very clear. When the DC Democrats go to these conventions lately, they talk about statehood, and they're very, very strong in emphasizing statehood.
So was that on their agenda this year? Was there any addition is they put on the party platform? Do you know?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, as Charles Wilson pointed out, and he showed me that Charles Wilson is the chair of the DC Democratic State Committee, that the plank supporting DC statehood was on page 51. So basically, they accomplished what they wanted to in terms of the Democratic Party platform.
Wonderful. So go ahead, Hamil. Yes.
I agree with James. One thing that Ms. Norton, who's a master politician, she was able to, again, when they had the famous roll call of the states, which puts the district on the same par as Texas and everywhere else, you had the mayor to put the 43 votes cast, one for Bernie and the 43 for Biden, but they had the mayor, Ms. Norton, and Council Chair Milderson standing on the roof of some building on Black Lives Matter Plaza. So again, that was a plus too for the district to be considered as the states as they did this roll call. So that was
So do you all have any updates on what you think we can expect next week from President Trump and the Republicans?
Yeah, absolutely. We know, too, if you recall, that famous scene last month with those two.
Denise, I'm a historian. I'm a frustrated presidential historian, and I really don't like the fact that he's going to deliver his acceptance speech from the White House. That's just not something that you do. He could go to Charlotte to do that, but not at the White House. And then after that, they're going to have some sort of fireworks display over the mall. I just don't like that at all. And that's just unprecedented, and I just don't like that.
I got you, but Stacy, go ahead. You got cut off.
James is very passionate.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that we will see, if you recall, last month, that couple in St. Louis that was pointing the guns at the protesters, well, they're going to be invited to speak at the convention for the Republicans next week. And it shows you the difference, right? And it shows you also, it should show you where the president is going with his campaign. And he talks a lot about the white suburban housewife and her being threatened by thugs from rural areas, right? So we know what that is. I mean, it's become more than just a dog whistle now. And the president understands now. I mean, we get these press releases all the time from blacks who support Trump, from that voice. However, the president understands that it was those who heard that dog whistle in 2016 that got him in, and those who are listening again. He's just being very direct now. He's looking for white supremacists to vote him in.
So let me ask this question, and then we're going to have to go. But it's interesting how when people talk about last year's election and the last presidential election 4 years ago, and then what we have to look forward to this time. I mean, it seems as though folks keep forgetting that the popular vote went to Hillary Clinton and the electoral votes went to Donald Trump. What will happen? I mean, even if the majority, if there's an outpouring of voter participation as we expect, what do the numbers look like, if any of you all know, as it relates to the electoral votes, which is what I'm sure Trump is banking on?
one of the things is why certain states in this battleground has been expanded, like Wisconsin. Again, you look for these large suburban communities. I think it was I think it was Florida. The margin of win and loss was only 10,000 votes, and so again, this is a major battle for white women and the swing states. I think it's not like 13. But I've noticed that with the Democrats, they have a large kind of, I won't say underground, but campaign where they are mobilizing voters in those particular swing states. And again, the battleground has been expanded. So at the end of the day, it's about mobilizing that so-called middle ground. And again, Trump barely won, but he won a lot of places. And that's really, to me, the battleground, flipping those states.
Well, I want to thank you all for this assessment of this week, which was a real, I mean, I think what we've heard is more Americans were able to participate in what otherwise is pretty much an invitation type style party, even though there are thousands of people there. But now there were hundreds of thousands who were able to tune in and to really get the message of what the party is planning and what the president plans. And so we want to give that same kind of attention to what the RNC has next week. And if we can, we might have to steal a couple of moments from Win TV's last end of the week or end of the month program, just to have a couple thoughts about the RNC. So I want to thank you all for being with us, and thank you for what you do for not only the Washington Informer, but for our readers and the community at large.